Today, we've got a story for you that sounds, well, it sounds pretty much impossible. It's the story of a fish that literally conquers waterfalls. I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. Can a fish climb a 50-foot cliff? It sounds more like a riddle, doesn't it? A creature that's built for water, somehow defying gravity, scaling a sheer rock wall while a torrent of water is crashing down on it? It just seems completely unbelievable. But here's the thing, it is absolutely true. Deep in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, for one tiny species of fish, this epic journey is an annual mission. And for the longest time, it was all just a local legend. So yeah, for decades, this wasn't science. It was just a story. A piece of local folklore, passed down through generations living along the Congo River basin. So get this, for over 50 years, the story was just that, a story, unproven. But then, because the rumors were so persistent, a team of researchers traveled to the Luvilombo Falls between 2018 and 2020 to investigate. And finally, in 2024, they published the very first scientific paper with video evidence, turning that local legend into a documented biological marvel. To really appreciate what these fish do, you have to understand the sheer mismatch in scale. We're talking about a tiny, tiny animal taking on a colossal natural obstacle. Okay, on one hand, we have our hero, the shellear fish, which is barely 2 inches long. And on the other, the Luvilombo Falls, a nearly 50-foot vertical wall of rushing water. I mean, the mismatch is almost impossible to wrap your head around. To put that into perspective for you, for a fish this small, climbing a 50-foot waterfall is the equivalent of a human free climbing a skyscraper. It's an act of extreme endurance, and it's only made possible by a very, very special adaptation. So how on earth does it do it? Well, the answer lies in a remarkable piece of evolutionary engineering. This is nature's ingenuity at its finest. Every superhero has a secret power, and believe me, the shellear is no different. But it's probably not what you're expecting. Now, what's really interesting here is the comparison. Other fish that climb, like some species of goby, often use a modified fin or even their mouth like a suction cup to just latch on. But the shellear does something completely different. It relies on pure friction generated by a set of highly specialized tools on its fins. And the secret has a name: unculi. These are microscopic, single-celled hooks that cover the fish's fins. Just think of them as nature's own high-tech climbing gear, perfectly designed to grip a slick, vertical rock face. The climbing technique itself is a two-part motion. First, it presses its fins flat against the wall, engaging those thousands of tiny hooks for grip. Then, it propels itself upward with a side-to-side wiggle of its tail. It's essentially swimming its way right up the rock face. As incredible as that technique is, the sheer endurance required for this journey is maybe even more astounding. This isn't a quick sprint, it is an ultra-marathon. All right, get ready for this number. Researchers clocked the average climb time for a single fish at 9 hours and 45 minutes. That's nearly 10 hours to travel just 50 feet. But this breakdown is where the story gets truly wild. Out of that nearly 10-hour journey, only about 15 minutes spent actively climbing. A staggering 92% of the time, over 9 hours, is just spent resting, clinging to the rock, recovering just enough energy for the next inch. And all that effort can be wiped out in an instant. The climb happens in the splash zone, right? So a single, sudden jet of water can break a fish's grip, sending it tumbling all the way back to the bottom to start its exhausting journey all over again. All of which leads to the ultimate question: why? Why undertake such a dangerous and exhausting journey? And what new threats does this ancient migration face today? What could possibly be worth this level of risk and effort for a creature so incredibly small? Well, scientists don't have one single definitive answer, but they do have a few leading theories. It could be a way for fish to get back home after being washed downstream during the rainy season. It could also be a migration to find upstream areas with less competition for food, or maybe to escape predators like the silver butter catfish that love to gather at the base of the falls. But after surviving for countless generations, this incredible natural spectacle is now endangered by distinctly modern, human-caused problems. There are two major threats. As the fish gather in huge numbers at the base of the falls waiting to climb, they become incredibly vulnerable. Illegal fishing operations use fine mesh mosquito nets that just scoop them up by the thousands. And perhaps even more devastating is the diversion of the river upstream for agriculture, which can dry out the falls and destroy the entire ecosystem these fish depend on. This quote from Emmanuel Vreven, one of the researchers on the study, really captures the spirit of this whole discovery. He said, "There are amazing things to see in little fish." It's a powerful reminder that some of nature's most spectacular stories are happening on a scale we really even notice. And that leaves us with a final thought. The story of the shellear fish was a local legend for 50 years before science finally confirmed it. It makes you wonder, how many other incredible, seemingly impossible stories are out there in the natural world, waiting not just to be discovered, but to be protected before they vanish forever?